After I was excluded from family events, I started a business that left them in shock. And now, please welcome the founder and creative director of Aurora Events, the woman who made tonight happen, Hannah Cole. The microphone feels heavier than it did in rehearsal. My hand is actually trembling a little as I stand up from my seat near the stage, the whole ballroom turning to look at me. I smooth my dress with my free hand, force my face into something that looks like a calm smile, and walk up the couple of steps to the small platform. From up here, I can see the entire room. The glittering chandeliers, the centerpieces I designed, the logo I sketched on my couch projected huge on the far wall. And at the table just to the left of the dance floor, in a cluster of navy and blush outfits, are my parents, my older sister, my younger brother, and assorted aunts and cousins, all frozen in various degrees of shock. My sister Emma actually has her mouth slightly open. My mom blinks like she's trying to clear her vision, as if I might be a trick of the light. Dad's hand is stuck halfway between his plate and his glass. Even from up here, I can see the exact moment my brother Noah's eyes flick from me to the Aurora Events logo, back to me, and he puts it together. My phone is buzzing in my clutch. Probably the family group chat exploding. But up here, under the lights, there's just me, the mic, and 300 people waiting for me to speak. It was a Tuesday night when I got the email for this event. I tell the room once the applause dies down, my voice echoing gently off the high ceiling. They said it was a milestone family celebration, and they wanted it to feel elegant, warm, and unforgettable. I let myself glance at my family's table as I say that last word. Emma's face flushes red. Dad looks down. Mom's eyes are locked on me like she's hearing my voice for the first time in years. It wasn't always like this. Me with the mic, them forced to listen. There was a time when the idea of speaking in front of 3 people, let alone 300, would have made my stomach twist into pretzels. But I guess getting slowly frozen out of your own family's life changes what you're scared of. Growing up, we were the kind of family that did everything together, at least on the surface. Sunday roasts at Grandma's. Big chaotic Christmases where 10 people squeezed around a table meant for 6. Cousins' birthdays at bowling alleys, everyone wearing those ugly rented shoes. My parents loved the idea of being close-knit. They said it a lot. We're a close-knit family. It sounded like a compliment and a warning at the same time. The thing about close-knit, though, is that there's always the risk someone becomes the loose thread. Looking back, I can see all the tiny ways that someone was me. Emma was the golden child firstborn, did well in school without trying, pretty in that effortless, glossy way that made relatives comment on how she could be a model at 13. Noah was the baby, the only boy, obsessed with sport from the time he could walk, living his life between football pitches and half-finished homework. I was in the middle, quieter, bookish, the one who spent more time rearranging the candles on the table than actually eating dinner. When I was 10, I planned my own birthday party because my parents were busy helping Noah with some regional tournament Emma had a piano exam for. I made hand-drawn invitations, wrote out a schedule with little colored boxes, games, cake, movie. Mom thought it was adorable and told everyone how organized I was. Like it was a quirky personality trait rather than a kid figuring out that if she wanted something to feel special, she had to make it happen herself. As we got older, the attention on my siblings only intensified. Emma's graduation was a whole production new dress, professional photos, weeks of talk about what canapes to serve at the backyard party. When I graduated 2 years later, it was nice. There was a cake from the supermarket and a "we're so proud of you" speech from Dad that lasted about 45 seconds before he pivoted to asking Emma about her internship. It wasn't that they were cruel. That's what still messes with my head sometimes. If they had been cartoon villains, it would be easier to file away. They loved me in their way. They just loved the idea of Emma's brilliance and Noah's potential a little louder. After school, Emma went into law, of course. She'd decided she was going to change the world and also make partner by 30. Noah got a scholarship to play football at uni. I drifted a bit. I tried a business degree because it seemed sensible, hated it, dropped out, and ended up working in a hotel bar to pay the rent on a room in a share house that smelled constantly of toast and damp towels. The bar job was where I accidentally found the thing I loved. I was supposed to be behind the counter, but we were understaffed, and the events manager was drowning one night when a corporate Christmas party turned out to have double the number of people they'd quoted for. I stepped in to help her rearrange the room-moving tables, adjusting lighting, finding a way to make the sad buffet look intentional instead of like a panic. Something clicked. This is weirdly fun, I told her while we were stringing fairy lights around a too small Christmas tree. She snorted. Then you're my new favorite person, she said. Most people run away from this. Within a few months, I'd weaseled my way into a junior events assistant role. It was a lot of spreadsheets, late nights, and dealing with drunk executives who thought event planner meant personal servant. But there were these moments standing in a doorway, watching a room go from empty and echoing to filled with laughter and clinking glasses that made my chest feel full. My parents did not get it. So you put balloons up for a living? Mom asked the first time I tried to explain. It's more than balloons, I said, stirring my tea a little too vigorously. I coordinate vendors, manage timelines, design the look and feel. It's project management and creativity combined. Dad smiled in that indulgent way he had when he thought I was overexcited about something small. As long as you're paying your bills, he said. You can always go back and finish your degree later. Emma, home for the weekend, chimed in from her perch at the breakfast bar. It's a cute job, she said. Good practice for planning your own wedding one day. I laughed because that was easier than saying, I'm good at this. This matters to me. The slow exclusion didn't start with some big fight. It started with a missed text. I was scrolling Instagram on my lunch break one day when I saw a photo tagged at my parents' house. A long table in the backyard, strung with bunting. Emma, in a sundress, holding a glass of wine. Noah grinning with a burger in hand. My parents at the center, Mom's head thrown back in laughter. The caption, from my cousin, read, Love our family BBQs. I stared at it for a long time, thumb hovering over the like button. My stomach did that weird, hollow flip. I hadn't been invited. It could have been an honest mistake, I told myself. So I messaged Mom. Looks like fun. When was this? She took a while to reply. Today, she finally wrote. Sorry, love, it was super last minute. You're always so busy with work, we didn't want to bother you. I stared at that didn't want to bother you until the words blurred. If it had been just that once, maybe I would have let it go. But once you start noticing, you can't unsee. There was the time they organized a big Sunday lunch for Grandma's birthday, just with whoever was around. And somehow, whoever never included me. The Christmas when Emma announced they were doing a siblings secret Santa brunch at some fancy hotel, and I found out only because she posted a boomerang of clinking champagne glasses. When I asked her about it, she said, Oh, it was really last minute, and we figured you'd be working. The thing is, I would have made time. That's what stung. They didn't even give me the chance to say no. The breaking point, the one that took the quiet ache and turned it into something sharper, came the year I turned 27. My birthday is in March. Growing up, it always fell around the time my parents did a big start of autumn family dinner. That year, no one had mentioned anything. I told myself it was fine. Adults don't need big fusses. I'd make plans with friends. On the day itself, my phone buzzed with the usual, happy birthday, messages from people I'd met at various points in my life. My family texted too, in the group chat. Mom with a generic happy birthday, darling. Dad with a thumbs up emoji because he'd only recently figured out how to find them. Emma with a have the best day, sis. Love you. Noah with HB. I was on my break scrolling when I saw it. A tagged photo at a restaurant I recognized. My parents, Emma and Noah, in a booth with a sparkler dessert. The caption from Emma's account. Family dinner tradition with my favorites. The timestamp was 20 minutes earlier. I actually laughed out loud in the staff room, the sound too high and brittle. One of the kitchen hands looked over at me, confused. You all right, Han? Yeah, I said, slipping my phone back into my pocket like it burned. Totally. That night, I bought myself cheap takeaway sushi and a bottle of Prosecco and sat on my couch, staring at the wall. The TV was on, but I wasn't really watching. My chest felt like someone had packed it full of cotton too tight, hard to breathe properly. They forgot, I said out loud at one point, hearing how pathetic it sounded in the quiet room. Then I corrected myself. No, they didn't forget. They just didn't think I'd matter there. I could have confronted them. I could have sent a long, emotionally literate message about how it made me feel. Every time I drafted something, it started turning into an essay, and I could hear Emma's voice in my head saying I was being dramatic. So instead, I deleted my drafts and opened a new document. In the blank space at the top, I wrote, Aurora Events Concept. If they didn't want me at the table as family, fine. I would build my own table. Literally. Metaphorically. All of it. At that stage, Aurora Events was just a jumble of ideas and a Pinterest board. I'd seen enough good and bad events at the hotel to know there was a gap in the market for something more personal, more thoughtful. People were always coming in stressed, flipping through generic packages, trying to make their wedding or birthday or corporate thing feel less cookie cutter. I kept thinking, if I had control, I could do this better. So I started. Small. On my nights off, I drafted packages. I learned how to build a basic website from YouTube. I took a short online course in floral design and another in bookkeeping. I brainstormed names until Aurora stuck. Something about the idea of taking the ordinary and making it glow. My first clients were friends of friends who couldn't afford the hotel's rates. I planned a baby shower in a backyard with borrowed chairs and hand-painted signs. A 30th birthday in a community hall where we covered the ugly brown walls with gauzy fabric so it looked like a completely different space. I charged basically nothing, just enough to cover costs and a bit extra, because it felt wrong to ask for more when I was still figuring it out. The more I worked, the less it hurt to see posts from family events I wasn't invited to. It still hurt, but the pain had somewhere to go. Into mood boards, into spreadsheets, into 2 a.m. Changes to timelines when a DJ dropped out. My world widened. I met photographers and caterers and other small business people who understood the weird mix of terror and joy that comes with creating something of your own. When I mentioned Aurora at home, though, it was met with the same mild condescension as my hotel job. That's nice, Dad said the first time I showed him my website on my phone. Like a little side project. It's actually a business, I said, trying to keep my tone light. I'm registering it properly and everything. You can put that on your CV, Mum added, sliding a tray of roast potatoes into the oven. Shows initiative. Emma glanced over my shoulder at the screen. Oh, everyone's doing that these days, she said. Instagram businesses, make sure you have a backup plan. Noah didn't say anything. He just asked if anyone wanted more gravy, so I stopped bringing it up. I let them talk about their colleagues, their kids, their renovation plans, and I kept Aurora for myself and the people who showed real interest. The business grew in these slow, organic inches. One client recommended me to another. A photographer tagged me in a post. A couple whose engagement party I'd rescued from disaster when their venue flooded wrote a ridiculously nice review. I picked up a few corporate gigs, small ones at first, product launches for local brands, then bigger ones when those went well. About 2.5 years in, the hotel where I used to work messaged me. The new events manager said, "We've been following your work. Would you be interested in collaborating as an external planner for clients who want something more bespoke?" I nearly dropped my phone in the sink. We met for coffee. She was young, stressed, and clearly juggling a million things. Honestly, if I could clone myself, I would, she said. You have a good reputation. People like you. I think this could work. We set up a trial arrangement. For a fee, I'd take on the more complex events, using the hotel's spaces but handling the creative side independently. It was the closest thing to validation from that world I could imagine. My family still had no idea. Which brings me to the email for a milestone family celebration. The inquiry came through my website like any other. The client wrote that they were planning a joint party for an anniversary, a retirement, and a birthday rolled into one. They wanted it to feel upscale but not stuffy. They had a venue already booked, the Lakeside Grand, a hotel 15 minutes from my parents' house. They'd been recommended Aurora by the hotel itself. I clicked on the attachment with the booking details and felt my stomach drop. The names on the contract, David and Margaret Cole. My parents. For a second, I thought it had to be a joke, like one of my friends had set up a fake inquiry as a prank. But the contact number was my dad's. The email address was my mum's. The date 2 months away lined up with their 40th wedding anniversary, Dad's retirement party from the council, and Mum's 65th. They were throwing a triple celebration. They'd booked a hotel. They'd invited, according to the estimated guest number, about 150 people. They had gone through the hotel's usual process and been told, "We work with an excellent external planner if you want something more special." And then the booking had landed in my inbox like any other job. My first instinct was to forward it to one of the other planners I sometimes collaborated with, wash my hands of it, and pretend I'd never seen it. Then I sat back in my chair and really thought about what that would mean. They had excluded me from family barbecues, secret Santas, birthdays. They had built this narrative in their heads where I was too busy, too flaky, too distant to be included. And now, unknowingly, they were asking me to help them throw the biggest family party of our lives. I emailed back, keeping it professionally neutral. Dear David and Margaret, thank you for your inquiry and for considering Aurora events. I'd love to set up a call to discuss your vision in more detail. Best, Hannah. It took all of 12 minutes for my dad to reply. Hi, Hannah. Thank you for your prompt response. We've heard wonderful things about Aurora from the Lakeside Grand. We'd be happy to arrange a call. Regards, David. He had no idea it was me. Of course he didn't. When I started Aurora, I dropped my surname from the branding because Hannah Cole Events sounded too much like a one-woman show, and I wanted it to feel bigger than just me. My face wasn't prominently plastered on the homepage. There was one small photo on the About page, but my parents had never looked. I set up the call for the next evening. All day, my nerves hummed. It felt like I was about to do something slightly illegal, even though technically it was just business. When the time came, I took the call on my laptop, camera off, voice steady. Hi, this is Hannah from Aurora Events, I said, my standard greeting. Hello, Hannah, this is David Cole speaking, Dad replied, sounding formal in the way he did with strangers. I could hear Mum in the background saying, Put it on speaker, Dave. I walked them through my usual questions. Guest numbers, budget, what 3 words they'd want their guests to use to describe the night. We want it to feel like us, Mum said. Warm, fun, a little bit fancy. We want it to be something people remember, Dad added. I made notes, asked about colors, about music, about food. I did not mention that I knew exactly which of their friends would end up hogging the buffet or who would try to request ABBA 5 times in a row. I didn't mention that I could picture the inside of the Lakeside Grand Ballroom with my eyes closed. At the end of the call, Dad said, You sound like you know what you're doing, Hannah. I swallowed down the stack of unsaid responses. I've been in events for a while, I said. We'll take good care of you. We signed a contract. A deposit hit my business account. I stared at the notification like it was some kind of spell reversing itself. Planning the event was surreal. I met with my parents twice at the hotel, always in my professional mode. Blazer, notebook, hair tied back. Both times I watched the flicker of recognition on Mum's face when she saw me, the way her eyes softened for a second and then snapped back to neutral. Have we met before? She asked on the first visit, halfway through discussing linen colors. I used to work here, I said, ticking a box on my form. Maybe you recognize me from the bar. Right, she said, smiling politely. We do come here a lot. We used to bring our kids for Sunday lunch for special occasions, Dad added. Our middle one works, somewhere in the city now. Marketing? Events? I can't keep up. I doodled a little flower in the margin of my notes so I didn't stab my pen through the paper. We designed everything. A custom cocktail named after their initials. A slideshow of old photos that would play silently on screens during dessert. A playlist that moved from Frank Sinatra to 90s pop as the night went on. I built them a little memory lane installation in the foyer with framed pictures and fairy lights leading guests into the main room. On the day of the event, I was at the hotel from 10 in the morning. My team, yes, team. I had 3 part-time assistants by then, moved like a well-oiled machine. We laid table runners, folded napkins just so, checked with the kitchen, adjusted the height of the centerpieces so conversation could flow over them. Around 5 o'clock, as the room finally started to look like the version in my head, I took a moment alone on the balcony overlooking the lake. The sky was doing that pink gold thing it does for about 10 minutes in autumn. I took a deep breath and tried to steady the fizz of adrenaline. What are you going to do? My assistant Liv had asked the day before, half grinning, half concerned. Are you going to tell them? Like, tell them? I'll introduce myself like I always do, I'd said. If they don't realize by then, I don't know. Maybe this isn't about forcing some dramatic confrontation. Maybe it's just about me being fully visible in a room they tried to keep me out of. Which brings us back to the microphone, the stage, The moment my worlds finally collided, I finished my little speech about the event. The usual thanks to the hotel, to my team, to the guests for coming. Then I pause. My heart is hammering so loudly I'm convinced the nearest tables can hear it. And personally, I add, this event is special to me in a way you might not know. Some of you I'm meeting for the first time tonight. Some of you have known me since I was, well, very small. A few polite laughs ripple through the crowd. I smile. It is an honor to help celebrate David and Margaret, who are not just my clients, but also my parents. There's an audible gasp from at least 3 tables. Someone drops a fork. I hear my aunt say too loudly, "Oh my God, that's Hannah?" I turn toward my parents' table. Mom's hand is over her mouth. Dad is staring at me like he's trying to do the maths on our entire relationship in 10 seconds. Emma has gone absolutely still. Noah looks like he might be sick. I don't milk it. I don't launch into a speech about exclusion or hurt. This isn't the time. This is their night, and despite everything, I want it to be good. I just let the moment hang for a heartbeat, then say, "So if anything goes wrong tonight, you know exactly who to blame at Christmas." The room laughs, the tension breaks, and the band starts up the next song. The rest of the evening, I do my job. I cue the slideshow. I check the kitchen is on schedule. I adjust a candle that's burning too close to a floral arrangement. I accept compliments from guests who come up to say, "You did an incredible job, love. Your parents must be proud." Eventually, they corner me. Mom finds me near the bar, where I'm checking on the tab. "Hannah," she says, and hearing my name in her voice knocks the breath out of me more than anything else tonight. "Hi," I say. My hands are full of drink tickets. It feels appropriate. She looks me up and down like she's trying to reconcile the girl who used to live at her kitchen table with the woman in black trousers and a headset who's orchestrating her party. "Why didn't you tell us?" she asks. Her voice is small in a way I'm not used to. "I did," I say gently. "Just not all at once. I told you I worked in events. I showed you my website. You never asked more." Dad joins us, face flushed, tie askew. "This is your business?" he asks, gesturing around the room. "All of this?" "Mine and my team's," I say. "Yes." He lets out a breath that sounds halfway between a laugh and a sigh. "It's impressive," he says. "I didn't realize. I mean, I knew you were doing something with events, but this... People know your company. They booked you," Mom says softly. "The hotel, they recommended you." "They did," I say. "We've been working together for a while." Emma appears too, drawn like a moth to both family drama and attention. "How long have you been doing this?" she demands. 3 and a bit years since I registered, I say. Longer if you count the side hustle phase. "And you didn't think to mention that you were basically running your own agency?" she asks, incredulous. I look at her, at all of them, standing there in their fancy clothes in the room I built. There's a version of me that would apologize, make it easier for them, smooth over the fact that they didn't see me because they weren't looking. I'm trying very hard not to be that version anymore. "I tried," I say. My voice isn't sharp, just steady. But every time I brought it up, the conversation shifted back to your cases, or Noah's games, or the latest family plan I wasn't part of. It got easier not to talk about it. There's a long pause. The band slides into a slow song. Guests are drifting onto the dance floor. Somewhere behind us, someone laughs loudly at a joke I can't hear. Dad clears his throat. "We didn't mean to leave you out," he says. "Of anything, we just thought you were busy, that you'd say no anyway. You never asked," I say. "You decided for me." Mom's eyes fill. "We've been terrible," she whispers. "Seeing this, seeing what you've built, I feel like I don't know you." "You do," I say. "I'm still me. I've just grown more when you weren't looking." We don't fix it all in that conversation. How could we? Years of tiny cuts don't heal because someone finally sees the wound. But something does shift. Mom hugs me, awkward and tight. Dad squeezes my shoulder and says, "We are proud of you, you know," in a voice that sounds like he's only just realized it himself. Later that night, when the last guest has left and my team is packing up the decor, I stand alone in the center of the empty ballroom. The floor is sticky with spilled champagne. There are confetti bits stuck in the carpet. My feet hurt. My heart feels full and raw, both. I think about the girl eating sushi alone on her couch on her 27th birthday, while her family posted photos from a dinner they never invited her to. I think about opening a blank document and typing Aurora Events Concept at the top. I think about every tiny, unglamorous step between that moment and this one. After I was excluded from family events, I didn't set out to build something to shock them. I set out to build something that made me feel less invisible. The shock is a side effect. Yes, there's a petty little part of me that savors the look on Emma's face when someone tells her, "Your sister is brilliant, isn't she?" But the bigger part of me knows that the real triumph isn't their surprise. It's finally being the main character in my own life, whether they're watching or not. I switch off the last set of fairy lights, sling my bag over my shoulder, and step out into the cool night air. My phone buzzes with a new message from the family group chat. Mom. Thank you for everything tonight, hon. We'd love to take you to dinner next week. Just us if you're free. I stand under the street lamp, grin slowly, and type back, I'll have to check my calendar. Business is good, but I'll make time.